Today will be a day to remember for the rest of your life. The Pro Football Hall of Fame is excited to present the Heart of a Hall of Famer program connected by Extreme Networks. With over 100 Hall of Famers participating, we have reached 47 states and countries all over the world, sharing the message that football is more than a game and can teach Americans important life values like commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and honesty.
But you have to make right decisions even when nobody's watching you.
Well, respect is not just given out. It's not handed out like a brochure. It's earned.
Today, you are presented with an opportunity to meet and learn from one of the greatest football players of all time. But more important than that, the chance to see that their Hall of Fame life wasn't given to them. They didn't roll out the bed great. They put the work in, on the field, in the weight room, in the classroom, in their communities. They made themselves a Hall of Famer on and off the field.
Your feet can't take you where your mind's never been.
Because you can make it, but it's just gonna take a little hard work and some effort and the drive and determination.
And today, you will learn you can do the same thing they did. You don't have to have a gold jacket or a bronze bust to make a difference in the lives of others. It's your decision whether you want to be a successful student, son, daughter, brother, or sister.
If attitudes are contagious, is your attitude worth catching?
It's integrity as well, because when you decide to pursue something and you don't quit, that says a lot about you.
Commitment to excellence. We can all aspire to be the best.
Welcome to a once-in-a-lifetime program, the Heart of a Hall of Famer program, connected by Extreme Networks.
It is an extreme honor for me to be standing up here today. Given where I came from, what was thought of me in my early days, and to be up here with these guys, a lot of them who I rooted for as a young kid, a lot of them were my heroes, and now for me to be standing up here as a part of them, I am deeply humbled and deeply honored to say that I am part of this family, the most esteemed family of any professional sports Hall of Fame in the history of sports. I know I've gone over my time, but everybody else has. You know, quarterbacks just seem to do that, and it's been a great experience being here this weekend. I love professional football. I have a passion for professional football. I'm a fan of the game. And to be included with these guys back here, besides my 4 kids being born, this is the happiest day of my life. I want to thank you all for being a part of this. I want to thank all of my family and relatives that came from so far around the country to be with me, to share this momentous weekend. Thank you much, and God bless all of you. Thank you.
All right, and with that, I'd like to welcome everybody here to Rainier Beach High School in Seattle, Washington for the latest installment of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Heart of a Hall of Famer series connected by Extreme Networks. My name is Jake Ray, and I'm the Youth and Education Manager at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, and I am super excited to be out here on the West Coast. I tell you, the weather didn't get any better when I made the trip out here, but I'm happy to be here and excited to do this other installment of our Heart of a Hall of Famer series. Before we get started and we interview our special guest today, a few things about the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's our mission at the Hall of Fame to honor the greatest of the game, to preserve its history, to promote its values, and to celebrate excellence together. And the values we promote are those of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, honesty, all of which made this person who's going to be sitting here in the seat beside me in a Hall of Fame football player, but it made him a great person off the field as well, and truly can make you a great student, a great teacher, a great person in your community. And I'm excited to hear how these values impacted our special guest career, both on and off the field, as we go throughout the program today. Before we do get started, some thank yous I'd like to pass out. First and foremost, I'd like to thank our great partners at Extreme Networks for everything that they do for us here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. and truly everything they do for schools across the country. This opportunity for the students sitting here in front of us at Rainier Beach High School and for students all over the country would not be able to take place without their great support. So first and foremost, thank you to Extreme Network. Secondly, I'd like to thank our teachers, administrators, educators, and especially the staff here at Rainier Beach High School for allowing us to come into their school and do this program today. They were a great support and great help in getting everything planned out. So thank you to them, and thank you to all the educators out there who allowed us just to be a small part of your students' learning experience this year. And lastly, I have to thank our students. We got some awesome students here sitting here in front of us, and we're excited to hear the questions that they have. If you're tuned in online, put your questions into the chat function. If you're watching us on Zoom, we'll have the opportunity to go to you for questions as well. But this is all for the students. Without the students, this program doesn't take place. This is an opportunity for a student to talk directly to a Hall of Famer. There's not very many chances in their life that they get to do that. So we're super excited for that part of the program today as well. No matter where you're at, though, whether you're watching this online, you're here live in person, if you're sharing out pictures today, make sure to tag at Pro Football HOF and tag at Extreme Networks. Use the hashtag HOF Values, and your post just might be reshared by our awesome team at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So with that being said, I'd like to welcome to the stage a man who threw for over 49,000 passing yards, spent 17 seasons in the NFL and over 20 playing professional football. He's a 9-time Pro Bowler, had 291 total touchdowns, and had 4,000-yard passing seasons. Please welcome to the stage Hall of Famer Warren Moon. Watch your step there. That'd be bad, having you fall right here when you walked out on stage. So
I'd be kind of goofy, right?
First and foremost, I'd like to welcome you. This is where your home is now. So didn't have to travel too far, but appreciate you coming out to the program today. And first and foremost, we want to touch a little bit on those values we talked about: commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and honesty. Out of those 5, is there one that stands out to you the most that kind of played a major role in your career on and off the field?
Well, I think commitment meant a lot to me when I was very young, because you had to be committed to this sport. You had to be committed to your education in order to be able to go to the next level. So I put in a lot of time into my sport to try and become the best I could in order to get, say, a scholarship to college, and then on into college, on into the pros. It takes tremendous commitment to do that, but you also have to have tremendous commitment in the classroom, because that's a vital part of moving forward. If you don't have the grades in school, you're not going to be allowed to play sports. So you definitely have to put the time in there, and it's a great balance that you have to go through, wanting to put in as much time as you can to be good at your sport, but also knowing that you have a more important responsibility to get good grades in school, because who knows what's going to happen with sports. You never know if you're going to make it that far, but if you have your education behind you, you always have that to fall back on. So that was always my plan going forward, that if I didn't make it in sports, I definitely had my educational background behind me, and I wanted to maybe go to law school after college and become a lawyer, but things worked out for me football wise. So,
say it worked out pretty well.
I was able to go along with that goal. So
you mentioned that, and specifically looking at the student athlete, when we give presentations talking about careers in the NFL, not here the dash streams, but it's very difficult to become a professional athlete. And the idea of being a student athlete, putting the school side first. Obviously, somebody who's seen the pinnacle of their football career, you mentioned how important it was to focus on being a student first. So for students in high school, students in college, how important is it? You can't be on the field if you don't do well in the classroom.
Right.
So how important is to always have that in the back of your mind?
It's very important. First of all, in order to just qualify to be able to play sports, you got to have a certain grade point average in order to play. At least that's what it was when I played, and I'm sure it's the same today. But you also want to be able to put as much time as you possibly can. You have pressure from coaches that want you to put, time in the weight room and time on the field doing certain things, and you feel that pressure as a young guy growing up, because you want to do whatever your coach says in order to get better, but you can never forget about what's most important, and that's your education. And then you have to have fun in there as well, because you're a young person and you can't have your whole life just totally committed to your sport and to academics, you want to have some fun as well. So that balance, like I said, is something that I think everybody should try and strive for, to have good balance in your life. So you have a little bit of you're giving everything a little bit of time, but knowing what might be the most important thing. Like if you're not as good in school, maybe you need to give school a little bit more time than your sport, and vice versa. But the balance is the important thing to keep you on the main level. So you excel in the classroom, you excel on the field or the court, and you also are able to have some fun in your young life.
Obviously that played a huge role in your life, obviously, making your way to the NFL, but, for everybody here, for everybody watching live that might not know, your career journey, can you just give us kind of that 10,000 foot view of what happened? Because a lot of people see the gold jacket, the ring that you wear when you're a Hall of Famer, and they think, oh, top 5 draft pick, starter right away, had an awesome career, became a Hall of Famer. So can you talk a little bit about your career arc and where you went and how you ended up in Canton?
Yeah, it definitely didn't happen that way for me. I grew up in Los Angeles, California. I grew up in a family where I had 6 sisters and myself. And then my dad passed when I was 7 years old of alcoholism. So I was basically the man of the house at a very young age in my house. And my mom got me involved in sports basically to get me around other boys, to get me around other men and mentors and things like that. So I started playing baseball, basketball, football, of course, but I gravitated more towards football because it was more of a challenge to me as far as playing the quarterback position. I had a really good arm as a young kid growing up. And I started playing quarterback when I was 11 years old in what we call Pop Warner football. Here, they might call it a junior program. And I just kept excelling in that. Then I went on to high school, and it was very difficult during the times when I went to high school because being an African-American quarterback wasn't something that was very accepted back in those days. We're talking about the early 70s now when I was in high school. So I had to have a coach that really believed in me. And when I was in the 10th grade, I didn't play very much at all because that coach, for some reason, didn't want to play me. And I'll never say anything negative or the reasons why, but I had my ideas of the reason why. But my high school varsity coach, he saw how hard I was working out in the off season, and he came up to me one day during the spring and said, "I'm going to make you my varsity starting quarterback next year as a junior." And that just gave me a lot of confidence, and I really worked my tail off, became a really good high school quarterback. By the time my senior year was over, I was an all-city quarterback. I was player of the year in my conference, all those different things, but none of the big schools would recruit me as a quarterback. They all still wanted me to play another position. They wanted me to play wide receiver or defensive back, something that I had never played before, mainly because of that mentality that, a lot of people just didn't think blacks could play that position. So I went to junior college for a year, had a really good year there, hoping I could get more scholarship offers. And finally I did. And I got accepted a scholarship to the University of Washington, where Don James, the coach there, was coming in his first season. So I was able to come in and help build that program. We ended up going to a Rose Bowl my senior year. I was a player of the year in the Pac-8 conference at that time. But again, when it was time to go to the pros, to the NFL didn't want me to play quarterback. They wanted me to play another position. They wanted me to change my position to wide receiver or defensive back, which I knew that I could play quarterback because I had been successful on every level that I had been at. It was just a matter of getting an opportunity. So I decided to go to the Canadian Football League, who was giving me the chance to play quarterback. So I went up there and played and had very good success up there. We won 5 championships my first 5 years. But all the time I was up there, I was wondering why I couldn't get this opportunity to play in the NFL, which was my dream, growing up, to play in the NFL. But finally, I got a chance to come back to the NFL to play. And I became the highest paid player in the National Football League after I came back to the league because of what I did in Canada. And people were finally accepting of me as a quarterback. And I went to the Houston Oilers, and the rest is history. I played 17 years in the NFL. He kind of read off some of my accolades, and here I am wearing this gold jacket as one of the best players to ever play the game in the NFL. And then I also got inducted into the Canadian Football League Hall of Fame as well. So My journey was a little bit different than most other guys. I wasn't drafted or anything like that, but I never gave up on it. I never quit. All I did was take advantage of whatever opportunity I was given, and I continued to keep working hard. I had great support from my family behind me to keep pushing me, and things worked out. So that's the thing I try and tell young people, that even though you're going to have a lot of obstacles and hurdles along the way as you go through life, it doesn't matter what you're trying to accomplish, whether it's a sport or whether it's a profession or whatever it is you want to do in life. You're going to have some obstacles in the way, but don't let those obstacles ever stop you. You have to have complete confidence in yourself that you can do whatever it is you want to do. It's just a matter of finding that opportunity to get it done. And then once that opportunity comes, you be ready and be prepared. And then I think things will happen for you.
You know, you hear a lot in that. There's so many different little things you could pull out, but persevering through that adversity, obviously, Black History Month here is in a couple of days.
Right.
You were not only the highest paid quarterback as an African-American, you were also the first African-American quarterback ever to be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So looking back on that honor and, paving the way, and we'll dive into this after this, but paving the way for the quarterbacks who came after you, looking back on that, what does that mean to you? Not only as Warren Moon, the quarterback, but Warren Moon, the individual.
Well, even before that, more importantly, the guys that were before me, the guys like James Harris, who played for the Rams and is somebody that I rooted for growing up in Los Angeles, because that's where I'm from, or Marlon Briscoe, who was the first African-American to start in a game. He played for the Denver Broncos, or Joe Gilliam, who played for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Those guys were kind of role models for me that gave me the encouragement that maybe I could play in the NFL one day. And then once I finally made it and did all of that, there's a lot of young guys now that are getting great opportunities to play the game. You look in the Super Bowl right now coming up, there's two African-American quarterbacks that are going to go against each other for the first time in the history of the Super Bowl. So that's something that I'm really, really proud of, because I know my play played a small part in that happening, as far as them getting those opportunities to play the game and play it at a very high level and be paid well and be endorsed well and all the different things that are going on for them. Somebody had to, to pave the way for that. So the guys that I mentioned before me started all that, and then I just carried it on along with a couple of other guys that I played with, a guy by the name of Randall Cunningham, another guy by the name of Doug Williams, who won the Super Bowl as the first African-American quarterback back in 1988. So those are the things that make me feel proud that everything I did on the field, even though I did a lot of things individually, I was able to help make change in the game of football at a very, very important position in the game.
Stole my question about the Super Bowl. So we're going to move on to, and hearing that, a lot of kids, even, I'm 30, we have high school kids here. A lot of people hear that story and probably think, well, it was probably super easy just to quit and give up. I'm not getting what I want. I'm done. Looking back, was there a moment where, that crosses your mind? And what did you do to get through that? This is tough. This is difficult, but I know I can do it. So I'm going to keep pushing until I get what I want.
Yeah, I was very discouraged coming out of college because of all the things I thought that I did. And I thought I at least deserved an opportunity to show what I could do at the pro level as a quarterback. And when that didn't seem like it was going to happen for me in the NFL, there was a time where I was going to give it up and just go to law school and become a lawyer, because I didn't want to change positions, because I didn't feel like I was good enough to play another position, especially at that level, at the pro level, having never played it before. But because of the Canadian Football League giving me that opportunity, that kind of reinvigorated me to keep playing the game. And so that's why I decided to go to Canada, because I said, I don't care where it is in the world, if it's Siberia, you name it, if they want me to play quarterback, I'll go there and play. And the Canadian League did that, and I decided to go there and give it a shot. And still, I was taking a chance going to a league that I didn't know anything about. The rules were totally different. It was a culture, a new environment. I didn't know any of the teammates or anything like that. So I was still taking a chance whether I was going to fail or not. But I wanted to play quarterback, and I felt like if I worked my tail off, I'd get there and have an opportunity and show what I could do. And I made a lot of friends, made a lot of relationships, and all those things happen when you're winning. But that was the time when I thought I might give up the game, was coming out of college, wondering, okay, am I going to get a chance to play the position or not? And fortunately, that other opportunity came about.
I mean, no matter what sport it is, what league, wherever, 5 straight championships is nothing to shake your head at. So, being able to use that momentum and then come into the NFL, your time in Houston, Kansas City, Minnesota, Seattle.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. I did my research.
You did your research.
Obviously leads you to some success and eventually, having that second home in Canton, Ohio. So we're going to go to our audience now. We got an awesome group of students here in front of us. So anybody out in the audience have a question, go ahead and raise your hand. And I'm going to pick you, state your name, the grade that you're in, and then go ahead and ask your question. Don't everybody raise their hands at once. Go ahead.
Hi there. Hi.
Hardest decision you ever made in your life?
The hardest decision I ever made in my life. Wow. I've made a lot of big decisions in my life. And I think that was one of the biggest ones at that time in my life when I was in college. Was I going to give up my opportunity to play pro football in the United States and go to another country and play? Or was I going to go give it up, something I had played since I was 10 or 11 years old, and go back to school? So that was probably the biggest decision I had to make at a very young age. I was at that time 21 years old, and that was a career decision that I made at that time. So that was probably the biggest one. There was other big ones after that, but that was the biggest one at an early stage in my life. Of course, you have decisions when you have family and things like that you have to deal with, but that was the biggest one at that stage in my life.
When you look at decisions like that, whether it's in the NFL, making the jump to another country and then coming back to a league that pretty much spurns you when you came out of college, do you have a support group that you look at? So, making those decisions, how important is it to have people, they say the cliche is in your corner, that students now, when they make decisions, like juniors and seniors are going to be making that college decision
Right.
here, or if they're going to straight into the workforce, how important is it to have those people in your corner?
There's no question that you have to have a support system. And my mom was my biggest support system. She played basically my mom and my dad when I was growing up. And anything that I had important to decide, I always went to her just for her wisdom. It wasn't like she was experienced in all these different things because she never played football before, or she never had to make a decision about that. But she definitely was somebody that I could talk to about it. And she basically let me make my major decisions as far as what college that I went to, but she would give me the pros and cons of what those decisions could be, whether it's, moving away from home, going from Los Angeles up to Seattle and everything that had to do with that. And so she was a big person in my life. And then I had an uncle by the name of Uncle Roy. He was my great uncle. And of course, he was somebody that I really leaned on a lot too. And so it's always good to have advice. It's always good to have, people around you that support you and can give you that type of advice that you need, especially when you're making big decisions in your life.
Awesome. All right. We're going to go to another question from our students here in front of us. So if you got a question, go ahead and raise your hand. And you go ahead with your question. Again, don't be shy.
And let me say to you guys, this school I have a lot of respect for. I've known about Rainier Beach ever since I came to Seattle a long time ago. And this school has a rich sports history to it that I've followed for many, many years. Some of the guys that have gone here, like Nate Robinson, people like that, I've known very well, and he was a great Husky for us. So when they asked me what high school I wanted to go and do this program with, Rainier was one of the schools that I wanted to come and do this in front of. So I want to thank you guys all for being here.
Yeah, I did a little quick Wikipedia Google search yesterday as I pulled in and saw Jamal Crawford's name on the gym. I'm like, well, let's see what Jamal Crawford, Nate Robinson, Deontay Murray, Kevin Porter Jr. There's some guys that have walked these halls for sure. And before we get back to students, looking at that, obviously, this is the high school you went to, but knowing the athletes and, outside of sports, the people that have, walked the halls of these schools, for a student who's in these seats right now, how important is it for them to, kind of take a look at that and realize, like, I may be going through tough times. I may have this tough class. I may not be doing the best on the field, on the court, whatever it might be. but looking at the success that has come out of the school and use that for inspiration, motivation in their own lives.
Yeah, if I were you, if I'm having, problems or being motivated to go to school or thinking about what I want to do going forward, and I'm kind of undecided of what I want to do once I leave high school, look at some of these guys that have been here and been successful and kind of read their stories. And I guarantee you'll find some similarities there, that they didn't always know exactly what they wanted to do or weren't always sure about what they wanted to do, and came through a lot of adversity. So I would read some of those stories, and maybe you can take some lessons from some of those stories that you read. So it's no question, following the people's footsteps that were right in front of you at this school can be people that are advantageous to you moving forward.
All right, students, got another question? Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Nope. Go ahead. Go with another one. Anything differently in your career? Different college? Would you have stayed in Canada a couple more years, won a couple more Grey Cups? What would those be, looking back at your football career?
I think the biggest thing I probably would have done differently is try to have a little bit more fun playing the game. Because of what I had to go through as far as convincing people to give me those chances, I was so serious all the time about everything that I did. And I never really enjoyed the journey as much as I probably should have. The only time it was fun to me was when we won. Other than that, I always felt like I was being judged, I was being looked at, I was being criticized. I've had name calling, I've had death threats, I've had all of that as a player. So I was always a really serious guy because I knew I was being looked at a little bit harder than most because of the position that I was playing and the position that I was trying to move forward in.
All right, next question, go ahead.
Appreciate that. How are you? Go Dogs.
I take it that a dog is a husky. Is that the inside
Yes,
code? Okay,
yes.
I had to make sure try and put two and two together there, but the outsider had to make sure. So being
Yeah.
fellow husky here in a couple months, looking at that, go ahead with what
Again,
said there.
my biggest role model growing up, of course, I talked about earlier, was my mom, but there were definitely men in my life that were mentors to me, like different coaches that I had in Pop Warner when I first started playing in high school. My high school coach was tremendous for me because of the confidence he had in me to be his quarterback. My college coach here at Don James, the same thing. He brought me here to play quarterback where a lot of other schools didn't want me to play quarterback. And then the guys I looked at in the game at that time, a guy by the name of James Harris, who played quarterback for the Los Angeles Rams when I was a young kid growing up. He was an African-American, somebody that I looked up to because he was in the NFL, he was successful. And I'm like, well, if this guy has a chance to do it, maybe I have a chance one day. I also loved the way that Roger Staubach played the game. He was a quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys when I was growing up. And I loved how my style was kind of similar to his, where we both could scramble, but we could both run the football. And then I loved his life, off the field. He was a Christian and lived a very respectful life. And I love that about him as well. So those are some of the athletes and some of the people that really made an impact on me in my life growing up.
You mentioned James Harris a few times now, and he, along with Doug Williams, started the Black College Football Hall of Fame, celebrating all the athletes that attended HBCUs, which is now housed, inside the walls of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So, obviously you didn't attend an HBCU yourself, but looking at your fellow Hall of Famers that did, guys like Shaq Harris and Doug, who started this, and even a guy like Dion, who took, that platform to a whole nother level. How important do you see the role that a guy like Shaq and Doug have played in bringing the HBCUs, to the forefront of college football and the professional level now?
Yeah, Shaq, who is James Harris, that's his nickname, and Doug Williams have brought tremendous visibility to the HBCU universities because of moving it to the Hall of Fame, having that classic every year. It's televised. Dion brought even more visibility because of his presence at Jackson State and what they've been able to do over the last 2 or 3 years. And now he's moved on to Colorado. But now you're seeing a lot more NFL type players taking on coaching jobs at HBCU universities, and it's creating more visibility for the school. And when the school has visibility like that, more students want to go there to go to school. So you're starting to see the attendance rise in a lot of HBCUs because of the presence of what their football programs are doing. And football programs basically run a lot of what goes on at universities, especially the athletic department. If the football team is successful and if they are making revenue, they are able to help all the other sports be funded. So it's important that this football program be successful in order for the other sports to be able to compete.
All right, any other questions from our audience out there? Front row, go ahead. So how dealing with coaches that might not, believe in you 100%.
It's tough because you put so much respect into your coach. You feel like this is the guy that's going to maybe make me be better, and he's going to show me how to play the sport. He's going to give me the tools that it takes to be successful. When you have a coach that doesn't believe in you and you don't feel like he's going to do those things for you, it's very disappointing, and you don't know exactly what you do need to do. But what I did is I just continued to keep working. I was going to show this guy, and I was going to show whoever didn't think I was good enough that I was. I wasn't going to take no for an answer. I played my whole career probably with a chip on my shoulder that I was always being second guessed and always having to prove myself. So I think a lot of that came from my mom, because when my dad passed away, my mother could have quit and gave up on us. She had 6 kids or 7 kids, and she went back to school. She became a nurse. She was working 2 shifts every day. She'd make sure we had hot food on the table every day. We had clean clothes every day. I didn't really feel like I was poor, even though we kind of were. And like I said, she could have quit and gave up on us, but she didn't. So I kind of watched all this happen the way she did this, and it kind of gave me the same motivation that if my mom can do this and raise 7 kids by herself and make everything happen, the least I can do is continue to keep trying to work and make my team better by not quitting. And another motivation was I wanted to make it all the way to the top one day so I could take care of her, so she didn't have to do the type of work that she did every day anymore. And I was able to do that. So there was a couple of motivations there, but one was just watching the way she did it and how she made it all work. And the other one was, I want to take care of her one day and make sure she doesn't have to do this anymore.
Awesome. Great question. All right. Somebody else, go ahead.
My question to you is, what is that philosophy that guided you into the sports career? What are these events about?
So what philosophy did you have? What kind of guiding you through your time, in the CFL, the NFL, and eventually here to the Hall of Fame? And how can students try and find their own to help guide them in whatever venture they want to go on?
Well, first off, I had a lot of spiritual faith when I was younger. My mother put me involved in all of my siblings in church at a very young age. And as far as our belief in God and all those things that have to do with religion. So I had a base there that I could always fall back on. I remember when I was playing pro ball, my minister used to call me every Sunday morning, wherever I was in the world or a country, and we'd pray together on the phone before I go play. So I had a tremendous belief system there. And then again, I had a strong mom who really instilled a lot of confidence in me. And then because I took on such a young leadership role in my family, I just felt a responsibility to the rest of my family to be successful. So I was able to help all of my family, not just my mom, by the time I became successful, because they had supported me and helped me through so much of my development all the way through the different sports. You know, my sisters would drive me to practices. They made me food. They did whatever. They were always at my games. So all those things meant something to me, and I wanted to pay that back to them. So a lot of things motivated me along the way, and that was kind of part of my philosophy, that I wanted to just give back to them for what they had done for me.
You know, looking back on your career, obviously going and playing with, you know, four different NFL teams, so many different teammates. The one thing I always like to focus on is that level of respect there are in the NFL. And I think that the epitome of that is during enshrinement week, when 100+ Hall of Famers come back and they're all in the same room, all in their gold jackets.
Yeah.
What is that? And we obviously know there's some trash talk that goes on in that room. But what ultimately is that level of respect? How high is it in that room when you have, you know, first-time Hall of Famers walking in? You know, you walk in there and there sits Jim Brown. Like,
Right.
what is that moment like, and how much respect is in that room?
Yeah, it's probably one of the most gratifying luncheons I ever go to every year, just because of the type of guys that are in that room. You're talking about people that I was a young fan of when I was playing the game, either in high school or as a young kid. And then the guys that I played against or with are in that same room. But we're considered the best of the best of professional football players. But when we have this luncheon every year at the Hall of Fame weekend, it's just us in this room. Like you said, it's about 100 and so guys that come back every year, because there's a lot of older guys that can't travel or whatever, but would love to be there. And we just start telling stories and start talking about what the game of football has meant to our lives, and how it played an impact in our lives. And I remember the first time I walked in there, the first year I was inducted, the first year guys aren't allowed to say anything in the room that first year. All they have to do is sit at a table and listen. And when you walk in a room and you see somebody like Joe Namath, or you see a Roger Staubach, who I looked up to as a young kid, or Jim Brown, or Gale Sayers, or all these guys you probably haven't heard of that I'm talking about. But for me, those were my heroes when I was a young kid growing up. But I can go to, you know, Deion Sanders is in that room, and Michael Irvin, and I can go on with all the different guys who are in there. It's just a great room to be in. And these are all ultra confident guys. There's a reason why they're successful, is because they have a lot of confidence and bravado. So there is a little trash talking that goes on, but we all feel like we're all on the same level when we're in that room. Because if you wear one of these jackets, it doesn't matter if you came in on the first ballot, it doesn't matter if you came in and it took you 15 years to get in. You're a Hall of Famer, and we're all one big family. We like to say we're all on the same team. So it's one of the great days of the year for me when I go back every year for that luncheon, because I get a chance to see all these guys. You know, you're talking about Mean Joe Green. I mean, you name it, they're in that room. And I just love going back for that weekend.
So another question we always like to ask is, you know, what was your welcome to the NFL moment? And we usually ask this to Hall of Famers, and they talk about their rookie season when they're coming in wide-eyed, not knowing what to expect. But, you know, you came into the NFL as a veteran, pretty much 5 championships under your belt. So to twist it a little bit, you're in the NFL, first game, you walk out there, break the huddle. Who was that defender that you're like, all right, we're really here now? Was it a guy like a Lawrence Taylor, or was there a defender that you remember that maybe you are on the same team with now, that you either had to study a little harder for, or was like, all right, we're going to have a great game today?
Well, my first game in the NFL was against the LA Raiders, and the LA Raiders had just won the Super Bowl the year before. So my first start is against the defending Super Bowl champions in the National Football League, and it was at home in Houston in the Astrodome. And I walked out of the huddle, and the first guy that I really saw and definitely recognized was Howie Long. And Howie Long was a great defensive tackle. He's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame now. But the Raiders were just stacked with guys all over their defense. And that day, you know, we lost the game, I think 21-14. I threw 2 touchdown passes, but I got hit like 18 times in that ball game. I got the snot beat out of me. And I realized that I was now in the National Football League just because of, you know, the beating that I took that day, but I survived it and came back and continued to keep playing. So that was my eye-opening experience.
I'm sure I can't even imagine what that was like, but I'm sure it was exciting, frightening, crazy, all in the same breath.
Nerve-wracking because this is my first time in the National Football League, my first, you know, regular season game. You know, all these eyes are on me anyway because I'm an African-American quarterback. I'm the highest paid guy in the league. I'm coming in from Canada. Nobody really knows exactly who I am and what type of player I'm going to be. So it was a lot of pressure there, but you know, that's why you play the game.
Awesome. All right. We got any more questions out here from our students? Anybody that has a question, go ahead and raise their hand.
Got a lot of new people.
A lot of new folks come in. We're getting more and more. All right. Front row here. Go ahead.
I think the biggest advice I could give you transitioning is, first of all, you just got to continue to keep working on your craft, working on your fundamentals, your footwork. Those things are never going to go away. I remember I was in my 15th year in the league, and I'm still working on the same little things that I worked on when I was playing in high school. You know, 3-step drop, 5-step drop, 7-step drop. You know, getting your feet right. Doing all the different drills that it takes to just to keep being sharp, making sure that your body is strong, you know, working out in the weight room, doing all those things you need to do. You want to be, as a quarterback, you want to be the hardest working guy on your football team, because as a leader, if you're the hardest working guy, the other guys are going to follow you. If they see their quarterback's not working hard, then they're not going to work hard. But if they see you busting your butt, most teams, their guys will follow that lead. So I think that's what you can do. And as you work hard like that, all it's going to do is make you a better player, but it's also going to make those guys around you better, which is going to make your job easier.
Can you talk a little bit about that transition, you know, from the transition from high school to college and how much the game changes as compared to the transition from college to the pros?
Yeah.
and how much, because, you know, in high school, if you're the stud, you know, you're the guy in high school, but you get to college and all of a sudden it's a whole bunch of teams of you.
Yeah.
And then you get to the pros and then it is a whole nother level. What are those transitions like, and how long did it take you to kind of see and adapt to those?
Yeah. When you go from high school to college, you're just playing against much better athletes at every position. In high school, you know, you get a lot of guys. There might be 1 or 2 guys on your team that are college worthy on your team to go to the next level. But then when you get to college, everybody out there is probably that 1 or 2 guy from another team that comes to play in college. So you've got the best of the best playing on your college team. And then when you go to the NFL, not only is everybody a little bit better at every position, but much more experience. You have guys now who are 3-year guys, or you might be a 10-year veteran. So they know so much more because of their experience, and they know all the little tricks of the trade that you have to try and overcome. So the pro game, man, oh man, it's a big difference. You know, as a quarterback, we talk about throwing the ball in windows to throw the ball to certain guys. Those windows don't stay open as long when you're in the National Football League. They close very quickly. So that ball has to be anticipated and has to be out of there, or it's going to get picked off, where you might get away with that in college, and definitely you get away with that more in high school. So yeah, the game just picks up skill-wise, the different levels that you go to, and that's just something you have to keep up with in your preparation to keep getting better. You can never sit back and rest on your laurels. I remember I think I had gone to 6 straight Pro Bowls, and I'm still going into the offseason wondering, okay, how can I get better? What do I need to work on? How can I improve myself? That's what you have to do in order to stay on top.
And I think, you know, that example right there, it doesn't matter if you're an NFL quarterback or if you work in business or you are selling something over the phone, that idea, that drive to always get better is always prevalent. We're read through some of your successes. We talked about everything that you got to do in your career. And next question, I think we stole from somebody that asked it when you were at the Hall of Fame, when we were at a luncheon. We liked it so much. All these successes to you, but is there something you haven't accomplished yet that you like to accomplish here?
Well, the thing I can accomplish now is because I don't play anymore. I didn't win a Super Bowl, and that was, I think, every player's goal that makes it to the National Football League is to play on a Super Bowl winning team. So that is a goal that will never be fulfilled by me. But at this point in my life, you know, I've done a lot of charity work, and I have 2 different foundations, and one of my foundations is called Brothers in Arms. And what we do is, it's myself, Andre Ware, who was the first African-American to win a Heisman Trophy at quarterback, Vince Young, who was in the College Football Hall of Fame and won a national championship, University of Texas. We all either are from Houston or played football in Houston. Now, it was my team that I played for 10 years. We started a foundation because we all came from single mom homes. So we started a foundation that targets kids that come from single mom homes, that are involved in sports, and they have good grades and want to go to college and needs financial assistance, and we provide scholarships to that. So I just want to continue to keep building on being able to give that number of scholarships out every year. And everybody can't be a professional football player or a basketball player or a singer or entertainer, but if you have education behind you, you have a chance to be successful in life in whatever it is you want to do, but you got to be educated to do it. So education has always been important to me. It was important to my mom. She pushed that when I was a young kid. And like I said, I'm looking for kids that might not, maybe they do have a chance to go play pro or not. I'm not sure when they're in high school, but they definitely can go to college and improve themselves as far as their education is concerned, so they can be successful in life one day.
Talked a lot about the past, and how you got to Canton. So let's focus on, looking at the NFL today. So first question would be, what excites you the most about the future of the NFL, and why is it that you would have been way better off in these sort of offenses, throwing the ball 50, 60 times a game?
Yeah. I think what excites me about the game right now is the quarterback position is so loaded with young, talented quarterbacks. I mean, you look at Patrick Mahomes, he's 26 years old. He'll be going to his 3rd Super Bowl this year. You look at Jalen Hurts, he's 23 years old, and he's going to his 1st Super Bowl already. You look at Josh Allen, you look at Joe Burrow, you look at all these guys, Justin Herbert. The league is in very, very good shape as far as the quarterback position is concerned. And if you don't have a great quarterback today, you're not going to make it very far. So that's something I'm excited about the league, because they're throwing the ball more than they ever have. That's something that was right down my alley. I would have loved to be playing today. And the way they protect the quarterback today compared to the way we were protected, totally different. So you can play a whole lot longer. That's why you see a Tom Brady still out there at 45 years old, or you see a Aaron Rodgers still out there right at 40. So guys know so much more about their bodies now, as far as, how to take care of it, training, diet, supplements, all those different things that it takes to be successful. And with the combination of all those things and the way you're protected now, you could play the game a lot longer. So that's something that I miss. But I did have a long career. I played till I was 44 years old. So there wasn't anything that I felt like I missed out on. But like I said, I would have loved to have competed for a championship.
Is there a quarterback, and you might have mentioned them in your list there, that you see a little Warren Moon in, some of your tendencies that you played from when you played in your career? Who is that quarterback that you see in today's game that you see a little bit of yourself in?
I see some of myself in like a Patrick Mahomes, because I had a lot of that, throw off platform type throws, things like that, and a little bit of Dak Prescott. There's some similarities there as well, because of his leadership skills and things like that. But I think you could pull a little bit from a lot of different guys if you really looked at it. But those are 2 guys that I like to watch them play and think I can did some of the same things they're doing now.
Obviously we're in Seahawks country. So I want to talk a little bit about, what you saw from the team this year. Obviously Russell Wilson gets traded away. The expectations probably, I'm not from here, but I can assume that the expectations weren't the playoffs this year. But a veteran who's been on the team, guy like Geno Smith comes in and leads this team to the playoffs this year. So for you, a former Seahawk, for the Seahawk fans, what was this season like, and getting to see a guy like Geno Smith come in and play at such a high level that he did throughout the year?
Yeah, I did play for the Seahawks for a couple of years. You guys probably don't know that. And I did their broadcast on radio and television for 15 years. So I was involved in the organization for a long time, and I still follow them very, very closely. Geno was a guy, when he came out of college, he was kind of immature when he came to the Jets, and he got into some problems with some teammates and things didn't work out, but he was a very, very talented guy at that time. Well, he got a chance to play backup behind Eli Manning. He played behind Phillip Rivers, who's another great quarterback for the Chargers, and he played behind Russell for 2 years. So I think during that time, he kind of really matured and learned a lot about what it takes to be a professional at that position. And once he got his opportunity, like I talked about earlier, you never know when that opportunity is going to come. You got to have yourself ready. He was ready to take it on, and he took on the opportunity he was given last year to start for the Seahawks, and had his best year ever. And he became an all-pro player this year. They went to the playoffs, and now Geno, based off of what happened coming out of college, compared to where he is now, he's going to be a very rich man here pretty soon by somebody. If it's not the Seahawks, somebody around the league is going to give him a really big deal. But the reason why is because he didn't quit. He didn't give up. He just kept getting better, kept learning. And when he got the opportunity, he seized on it. And that's why he's in the position he's in right now.
How much would have the quarterback Warren Moon love to throw to a guy like DK Metcalf or a guy like Tyler Lockett?
Yeah, you love to throw to big, strong, physical receivers like that, because they make the game easier for you, because their catch radius, which is their arms and being able to jump and all those things that he can do. And then Tyler Lockett runs just such great routes that he never drops the ball. I think he had 2 drops this year or something like that. So those are guys you love to throw the football to. I played with some really good receivers, and that was one of the reasons why I was successful too. You can't be a good quarterback unless you have good people around you.
All right. So we got a big game coming up here in a couple weeks. You mentioned it before, Chiefs, Eagles, Super Bowl. Don't have to make a prediction. We're not going to put you on the spot. But for us who have not played in the league, have been on that level, what are some things you're looking for? Where are some strengths you see for both teams, especially looking at the quarterback position?
Well, unfortunately, both quarterbacks come into this game a little banged up. Patrick Mahomes has the ankle problem, which he showed so much guts last week in that game, fighting through all that. And then Jalen Hurts has a bad shoulder where he's not throwing the ball the way he was earlier in the season before he hurt that shoulder. So they'll have a couple of weeks to get ready for this game, but they're not going to go in there 100%. I think for Philadelphia, they have a really good pass rush there. I think they're third all time in sacks this year, 75 sacks as a team. So I think what they want to try and do is make sure Patrick Mahomes stays in the pocket and they let their pass rush get to him. And if they can do that, they'll have a chance to win the football game. If they can't get pressure on him, he'll eat them up. But they do have a really good secondary as well. I think on the other side, Jalen Hurts hopefully can throw the ball, better than he's been able to the last few starts. He only threw for 121 yards last week, but they still won the football game. But if he can't throw and make some big plays, because one of the things he did all season long was he was one of the best deep ball throwers in the league, and he has 2 really good receivers on the outside. So you got to get those guys more involved in the game. AJ Brown and also Devontae Smith. Those are 2 guys he needs to make some big plays from in order to win the football game. And if they can do that and keep Patrick Mahomes bottled up in the pocket, they have a chance to win the game. If they can't do that, then Patrick Mahomes is going to take control of the game and win it for Kansas City. So that's what I see as the key. It's always comes down to the line of scrimmage. Who wins the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball? The big guys. Whoever controls that part of it and allows the skill guys to be able to do what they do, that's who usually wins the game.
Couple more questions before we wrap up here. along the same lines of the Super Bowl, there's a pretty big announcement that takes place the Thursday before the Super Bowl when us at the Hall of Fame announce our brand new class, the class of 2023. Let's take it back to the day you found out. What was that day like? Obviously it's a little different than it was then, but what was that moment like when that phone rings and it's Warren Moon, congratulations, you're a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
Yeah, mine was a little bit different than most. Now, today they do it by this knock on the door, and they bring all the finalist guys into one place, and in their hotel room, they or either they come to their house now. I think they come to their home and knock on their door, and they tell them that they've been selected. But back when I did it, it was because I've been in now for, I think, 17 years. They just called you on the telephone and told you. And I was actually doing the Seahawks broadcast. I was in Detroit, and the Seahawks were going to play Pittsburgh Steelers in the Super Bowl. So I was already there preparing for the game. And I knew that Hall of Fame selection was coming up that Saturday morning or that Saturday afternoon. And I did a football camp that day for young kids that day. I was trying to do anything I could to keep myself occupied and not think about it. And my phone kept ringing all day. It's family members, everybody wanting to know it. I got the call yet, and I'm like, stop calling me. I'm trying to keep my line free. And so finally, you have a guy that presents you to the Hall of Fame selectors. And he called me on the phone and said, Warren, I think you need to come down to the hotel where they're going to have the press conference for the selection of the Hall of Fame this year. And I think you might make it because you're down to the final 6 or 7 or something like that. And I'm like, well, John, if I come down there and I don't get selected, I'm going to be very embarrassed, and it'd be like I have my finger up my butt standing there not being selected, but here I am there like I thought I was gonna be. So he had to convince me to come down there. So I get in the car with my wife and we start driving down to the hotel downtown, and it's kind of sleeting and snowing outside, and I'm driving down the freeway and my phone rings, and I answer it, and it's a lady from the NFL, and she says, Warren, I got those tickets that you wanted for the NFL tailgate party. And I'm like, oh, thank you very much. I'm trying to get off the phone, and she's like, and by the way, congratulations on being selected in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I'm like, what are you talking about? Nobody's called me. And she's like, well, it's going across the ticker tape on the TV right now that you just got selected. And I'm like, well, nobody's told me anything, so I don't know. And I get off the phone and it rings immediately, and it's the Pro Football Hall of Fame telling me that I got selected. And boy, oh boy, did I lose it. I had to pull my car over to the side of the road, and I just started bawling like a baby. And everything that I had gone throughout my whole life, playing the position, and all the different pitfalls and obstacles that I went through, just all kind of came out of me emotionally. And I'm not a big emotional guy. And I started thinking about all the guys that were before me as well, and the Doug Williamses and the Joe Gilliams and all those guys who, people didn't believe they could play the position. I just felt like what I was getting right then and there, all of us kind of deserved a little bit of that. So it was one of the most emotional moments I've ever had in my life, and one of the greatest phone calls that I ever had in my life as well.
All right, last question here today, and before we get this, again, thank you for giving time out of your busy schedule to be with us today, be here at the school to talk to all the students. Obviously, a lot of great things we talked about, from mentorship to leadership to being a great teammate to motivation, so many different things. If there's one piece of advice you want everybody who watches this now, watches this 6 months from now, what is that one piece of advice, if they can only remember one thing, that you want them to leave today with?
I think the biggest thing is just having belief in yourself, having faith in yourself, believing that you can do any and everything that you want to accomplish in life. I'm a perfect example of that. I didn't come from a whole lot, but I ended up being at the top pinnacle of what my profession was, only because I did believe in myself and I worked as hard as anybody that's ever played this game. And I think if you're willing to do that, I think everything else will fall in place for you. But there's nothing given to you in this world. You have to go out there and earn it all. But when you earn it, you feel so much better about yourself. I feel really proud of everything that I've been able to accomplish because I know nobody gave me anything. And I put the work in, I made the sacrifices, and it happened. So there's nothing better in life than feeling that you've done it that way. And that's what I'll always be proud of my career and my life for.
All right. With that, we're going to wrap up this latest installment of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Heart of a Hall of Famer series, connected by Extreme Networks, today featuring class of 2006 member Warren Moon. Again, Warren, thank you so much for being a part of the program today. Thank you for everything you've done for the game of football, and specifically everything you do continually for us at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Everybody, let's give Mr. Moon one last big round of applause here today.
Thank you all. Thank you.
So everybody that tuned in, watching us on YouTube, or who watching us, down the road from now, thank you so much for giving up some of your time watching the program. We hope to have you connected for another program. Thank you so much. We'll see you later.